Imagine this. It's 1925. One of the greatest explorers of his time walks into the Amazon jungle looking for a lost city and is never seen again. Today, we're diving into the incredible story of Colonel Percy Fawcett, a man who tried to solve a giant mystery and ended up becoming one himself. You need have no fear of any failure. Those were the last words Colonel Percy Fawcett wrote to his wife. Hauntingly confident, right? He sent them from a place ominously called Dead Horse Camp on May 29th, 1925. After that letter, just silence. And look, Fawcett wasn't some rookie. This guy was a total icon from the golden age of exploration. And he wasn't alone. He had his 21-year-old son Jack and Jack's best friend Raleigh with him. The three of them just stepped into the unexplored jungles of Brazil and basically vanished off the face of the planet. So who was this guy, really? And what could possibly drive someone to take a risk that huge? Well, it wasn't about gold, and it wasn't really about fame. It was an idea, an obsession with a place he was convinced would completely rewrite human history. He gave it a simple, mysterious name, Z. Now, in his mind, this wasn't just some crumbling ruin. Oh no, Z was a massive, sophisticated city. Think of it like an Atlantis, but hidden in the Amazon. He believed it was the key to understanding all of ancient South America. I mean, just listen to the scale of that ambition. He wasn't looking for a few mud huts. He was looking for proof that the Amazon, a place that scientists back then said was too hostile for civilization, was actually the cradle of a magnificent society older than Egypt itself. So you might be wondering, where did he get this wild idea? Well, it wasn't totally out of thin air. It was sparked by this document right here, Manuscript 512. It's this old Portuguese text that describes explorers stumbling upon a lost city of stone. For Fawcett, this wasn't just a story, it was a treasure map. And what's so crazy is how fast it all went down. They head out in April. By the end of May, they've sent their last letter, they cross a river into territory no outsider had ever seen, and that's it. They're gone. 2 years later, the world finally had to admit they were never coming back. Naturally, a mystery this big just begs for answers. And for the next 100 years, the question of what happened to Percy Fawcett became a legend all on its own, almost as famous as the city he was looking for. And the theories, they're all over the place. I mean, from the totally plausible to the completely bizarre. The most common one, that they were killed by a local tribe. But you also hear that they just starved. Or even that Fawcett decided, you know what? I'm done with the modern world, and just went off to live in the jungle. But this is probably the closest we'll ever get to an eyewitness account. Years later, elders of the Kalapalo tribe told a story passed down through generations. They said they met Fawcett, warned him not to go any farther because of fierce Indians, but he didn't listen. They said they could see his campfire in the distance for 5 nights in a row. And then, on the 6th night, nothing. 100. That's a big, stark number, and what it stands for is absolutely chilling. That's the estimated number of people who died in the expeditions that went looking for him. And here's the ultimate irony. Fawcett had explicitly said, don't send rescue parties, it's too dangerous. But his story was too big, too tempting, and the search for the lost explorer became its own deadly obsession. Okay, so for decades, everyone was focused on the man, but eventually a different question started bubbling up again. What about his quest? What if the guy everyone called a nutter was actually onto something? And that really is the million-dollar question. For most of the 20th century, the official scientific answer was a hard no. The thinking was the Amazon soil was just too poor to support a big, complex society. Fawcett's City of Z? A romantic fantasy. But was it? This is where the story takes a mind-blowing twist. See, Fawcett was imagining a single giant city made of stone. The reality that archaeologists have uncovered is, honestly, even more incredible. It wasn't one city. It was a whole network of large settlements, sort of like garden cities, all connected. And the craziest part of all, they found them in the exact region Fawcett was exploring. It's a place called Kuhikugu. And thanks to modern archaeology, we now know that this area was home to tens of thousands of people. They built roads, causeways, moats. They were managing the land on a massive scale. It wasn't the stone city of Z from his imagination, but it was absolutely a civilization. So let's put it all together. Fawcett died looking for his city of stone. By any normal measure, his last mission was a total failure. But in a strange way, his doomed quest might be one of the most important failures in the history of exploration. Because here's the ultimate takeaway. The guy was right. He was wrong about the details, sure, but his core belief, the very thing the experts of his day laughed at him for, turned out to be true. The Amazon was not some empty jungle. It was a place teeming with history and civilization. And what about the man himself? Well, his story became the literal blueprint for the adventurer archetype. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who was a friend of his, was inspired to write The Lost World. And that fedora-wearing hero, Indiana Jones, you can bet he owes a thing or two to the legend of Percy Fawcett. And yet, the personal mystery is still there. Almost nothing of his was ever recovered, except for this signet ring. It was confirmed to be his, and it just turned up in a market in the 1970s. It's this tiny, tantalizing clue that gives us zero answers and only makes the whole thing even weirder. So in the end, that's the story. He went out searching for a myth, and by never coming back, he became the exact kind of legend he was chasing, a story swallowed by the jungle. So Fawcett was proven right about the Amazon's past, but his own story remains one of its greatest secrets. And it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? In a place that vast, that ancient, what other mysteries are still out there, just waiting to be found?